Day 2 of the July 97 7-day retreat in Springwater. Why do I come here? People ask. Why come here and sit quietly? Motionlessly, quietly, at times at least. Why? Often it's said, I don't even know why I'm doing it. But here I am. Are we? Are we here? The other question that often comes up in the beginning, what is the practice here? What should I do with all this time, with all this quiet time? And then the question usually comes up toward the end of the retreat, but also for some people right at the beginning. Being quiet and quietly aware is possible here, at least at times. But what about my daily life with all its turbulence, difficulties in relationship? How to be quiet then, or attentive, in touch? And also the question, how can I be more aware? What can I do to bring about or invite awareness? Let's go back to the first question. Why come here and be quiet? Why sit quietly? It is not said as a protest by most people, but as a wondering. What is it about this quiet sitting? I come to it time and time again. I don't understand why. Well, first of all, our conditioning is and has been to have a ready reason for what we're doing. The brain wants explanation, verbalized explanation about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. It demands that. And until we realize quite clearly that this is an automatic demand of the brain, we feel put upon to answer these questions. We feel put upon to find a reason for what we're doing. And the way the brain goes about it, also by training and probably inheritance, is to try to figure it out, to think about it. Brain poses a question, and then thought goes about answering it, trying to figure it out. One can observe it. getting together or being alone, taking a walk. One sees something, what is this? Why is it growing like this? We ask each other and we come up with reasons and explanations out of knowledge, and we feel good about it. We've been praised innumerable times in our lives for knowing things and for being a knower of things that develops the attachment and investment in the knower, that structure developing out of conditions, out of interaction with other people. So, is it possible, if that question is strong and there is no answer, why do I sit quietly? To let it be, not to find an answer, but to be alert and attentive in the sitting? What happens? Not all the time. But I want to find out about it, about being quiet. Not in an analytical way, not in order to give explanations, because my life is so turbulent. So many problems and so many conflicts, so much anxiety, so much wanting and frustrations. What happens if, with all of that as the mix, the background, the presence, I sit down right in the middle of it, quietly? The reason that may come up is I want to solve this, I want to be free of problems. I want to be free of fear. Maybe by sitting quietly, I will get beyond my fears or my anger. That's hope. That's an idea. That's a goal, which is all right. We're not saying anything for or against. We're just looking at it. And of course, a goal, if believed in, that I will, through this sitting, attain a state free of fear or anxiety or anger. Belief in that goal can give like injections to the physical system. Makes one feel good. I'm on the way. I can attain this. It's possible for me. This is how we live a lot. By injection of hopeful or expectations. Imagining what can happen to us, what will happen to us, and that producing pleasurable energies or positive energies throughout the organism. Can one observe that? How often in the course of one round of sitting, they may be thinking about the future, either in hopeful, positive ways or in fearful, negative ways, and watch the impact on the body. How different it feels with a hopeful thought than with a fearful thought. How these things function so automatically, so quickly, so palpably, if they are observed. They function anyways, but it's possible to observe this functioning of a hopeful thought energizing the body, a fearful thought putting in it some kind of stress and tension, disagreeable sensations. That's what happens when one sits quietly and there's some interest in finding out what it is about this me, this body-mind that I call my own, with all of its problems and all of its pleasures and pains. What is it about that? Not giving an answer, but observing it as it reveals itself in quiet, motionless sitting. Maybe not immediately in the way it has been described here, because our habitual way is to observe for a moment that there are lots of thoughts or fearful emotions, uncomfortable sensations, to be aware of it for a moment, and then be critical of it. Very, very quickly, the reaction of judgment sets in. I don't like this. And searching for something better in fantasy, a state which is free of this. We have gone through that. But at this moment, the simple, neutral observation is interrupted through evaluation, criticalness, judgment, liking and disliking, which in itself is totally there for observation. How with awareness of something comes the naming, this is this is that, and the judging. I like it, I don't like it. And the judging interrupts the flow of awareing. Not necessarily, but it usually does, because the mind now tries to figure out what to do about this object of too many thoughts, too many emotions, or too little emotions. Too much numbness. One may sit down and realize maybe for the first time that one feels hardly anything. The body feels numb or frozen. So we're asking, can one remain with that observation? Remain with that feeling, that numbness, and wonder about it, what it is. And at the same time, maybe hear the wind in the leaves rustling gently. The breathing. In the midst of what feels like a numb body, there is breathing going on. This moment, isn't there? The breathing and the gentle breeze, not interfering with each other. And then are there thoughts? I can hear it clearly or I cannot hear it clearly. I should hear it better. Others are doing it better or I'm doing it better than others. Right now I'm improvising these thought trains, but we're all familiar with them, aren't we? In one form or another. A perception, a sensation, a feeling. And then I like it or I don't like it. I can do it or I can't do it. Immediately, the referring of what's happening to me. It is my hearing, my sensation, my anger, my fear. Did we make a jump here? We talked about the judging, and now we're talking about identifying with what is perceived. It is my hearing. I hear the sounds. It's my paining or my pleasure. We say it this way. We've never heard it said any other way. We're so used to this way of expressing it that the belief unfolds seemingly naturally that there is an owner of this body with all of its ongoing sensations and thoughts. And I am this owner. We can live with it conceptually for the longest time without questioning it. Who this I is that owns the body, that has the pain, that wants pleasure and happiness. Because we think that way, and therefore we believe there is such an I that does things, expects things, judges things. And yet, in sitting quietly, one observes a thought popping up, one thought instantly arousing the whole system in fear or pleasure or anger. Because it's usually a whole train of thoughts, but it can be just one. It needs no more than one. Where is the I that's doing it? A thought arises, a feeling or sensation is triggered, and the sensation of fear, the cramping in the stomach, or the pain and discomfort in the solar plexus, pounding of the heart, whatever all happens physically, arouses more thoughts about there must be something dangerous here. Or else, I don't like this feeling, I want to get rid of it. So thought arouses emotion, sensation, feelings. And feelings, emotions, and sensations give birth to more thoughts, which give birth to more sensations. And where am I in all of that? Other than thinking, I'm watching this. But we don't just think, I'm watching all this, we also think, I think about this. I have the reaction, and I don't like this reaction. Can we track it down and find that this is all interwoven networks of thinking and feeling and experiencing? And there's no one doing it. One triggers the other. In seemingly endless succession. It's not endless, but it seems that way, because thought says this has been going on forever, and it probably will go on forever. I've been going too fast. We have meetings. If something felt slurry, too quick, one really wants to grasp it, to follow it, to go into it, then we can do this in meetings. Right now, all we're saying is, even though we believe so strongly that I am thinking and I have pain, and I want to get rid of the pain or the anger, or I am justified at being angry, all of these judgmental ways of thinking which posit the I over and over again. We're suggesting to watch it all. Watch the real thing happening rather than go with a belief system, which is so powerful because we all use the same language in that way, in that respect. And it's convenient. It sounds too vague to say, well, this morning there has been anger stirring and then there was judging it. It sounds as though a person is talking in a stilted way, artificial way. But it's a more accurate way. It's more accurate. There is a thought arising, there's anger stirring. There are more words to keep the anger going. Who's doing it? And the question, who is doing it, in this case does not mean look for a who. and you'll find one. It rather comes out of this realization that there is no who, there's just happening. Palpable, observable, transparent happening, which comes with quiet sitting. Not immediately, but bit by bit, for everyone who seeks out quietness and does not just hold on to quietness for fear of being disturbed by disturbing thought, by disturbing sensation. And we talked about it last night in a group meeting, there are helpful practices at the time when one wants to sleep and one cannot sleep, one can't fall asleep and then starts worrying. What will I do tomorrow without sleep? Will I ever sleep here? One person asked, because it seemed as though it was sleeplessness reigning. Then one person related reciting a compassion mantra, repeating it over and over, and lo and behold, the mind calmed down. It was possible to be quiet again. Very helpful, a time of sleeplessness, if one can proceed with this. For me, usually these things work the opposite. I'm more awake. Not that I recite mantras, but to really be with a state brings a lot of attention and energy. So, I'm not prescribing what anyone here should do. Is up to each one, and we have sometimes very or seemingly reliable feelings of what is the right thing to do at this moment. But there may come a moment of no choice in which there is just what's there, and one has tried everything to get rid of it, to be done with the pain, the despair, the anxiety. And here it is. Hasn't gone away. People tell me this, I've been aware of it, I'm aware of it, and it's still there. Is one really aware? Or is there awareness with an eye out for a result which is not completely there? Because I don't want this thing to stick around. I want to be free of it, which is all right to feel that way. But it comes a moment where there is just this and nothing else. And freedom at this moment is just a concept which can be seen to be distracting from just here. Just here. The wind is still blowing. Heart is still beating. And there's no escape. No need to escape. Because just here-ness is what? Is that the end of separation? Me and my pain? Just here-ness leaves no space for such thoughts, me and mine. It is a total not knowing whose and what. And no future in this. Will it be gone? No past in this. Memories of how it was. It's all a luxury which is not possible in just being here, just now, with everything that's there, in a space which has room for everything. And still it isn't filled. Still it remains spacious and empty. because at this moment of completely just here with what's there, the I-thought circuit quiets down. There's no energy flowing into that network. Energy is here with caw, and sneezing and moving, and twittering, and maybe paining, maybe not. When you don't name it anymore, what is it? When you don't know it anymore, what can it be? People tell me that when I say something like this, thought quickly forms an idea, a concept, conceptualizes it, and then the movement sets into want that sounds marvelous, I want to do that, or I don't want to do that, which is astute observation that this is what takes place. Only we're, at least in the beginning, sometimes right from the beginning, sometimes not after many years, we're not skilled in remaining with the astute awareness that thought immediately makes something out of it, now wants that, and by wanting it sets the body into motion of desiring, going for it, to observe that as an occurrence in human beings like you and me, and to observe how this conceptualizing it and wanting it is no longer being here unless there is this awareness of it. But usually we flow with it, we move away with it. And again, other people may be able to do this, not me. To listen, wiretap into these tapes and sounds and speeches that we make about ourselves, to ourselves, and how effective it is to keep the organism in conflict and turmoil, or in moving toward things away from others. So, is it possible to remain with awareness and not be pulled into the objects of awareness, which, if left alone, if seen, allowed to become transparent, come and go, like the clouds. But if grabbed onto, this is what I want, this is what I can do, or this is what I cannot do, resistance or drive, drivenness, then things are firmed up, perpetuated. I don't have this ability to just come and go and float away, dissolve in an open sky. So if we have this condition, which almost everybody reports about, I'm aware of it, but it doesn't go away, then ask yourselves, what keeps it going? What keeps the fear going? What keeps the anger maintained? And wonder about it. Not take it for granted that this is so and I'm a hopeless case. Which takes the energy of away from drifting with emotional happenings to observing them, wondering about them. It's a shift in energy which is experienced as effort, arduous. Because our habit is to move with everything that comes into the mind and body, comment about it, judge it, make predictions about it, associate with it. That's the habit of this body-mind since time immemorial, to drift with things and feelings, to wonder what is going on, sort of sitting up, as it were. What is happening? What keeps this fear going? What keeps the anger maintained? It's not habitual. Of course, the brain manages to make a habit out of anything, almost to say it without meaning it. But when we really want to find out what is going on, what is happening here, that keeps the fire going, can't drift along with it. There has to be a different way, which this body-mind knows on its own. It cannot be taught, and yet we talk about it. But to do this, away from drifting to looking at the drift, happens for each one of us on its own. Maybe some relationship to discussing it and talking about it. That's helpful, else we wouldn't do it. But the happening of the shift to looking, to realizing, is an amazing moment. I'm not doing it. It happens. The shift from drifting to wondering and looking and listening in a fresh way, fresh as this energy that makes it possible. So I find all kinds of stuff revealing itself, what keeps the fear going, the anger maintained. We hinted at it earlier. More thought about it, more storytelling, embellishing the story. It has sort of a self-propelling effect, and a fear or anger arousing story about, particularly if it's about somebody else, what this person did to me or is not doing right by me. Because the whole past feeds into this. All the past gripes and pains and scars ooze into this present scene. Not only verbally, also experientially, feeling-wise, physically, chemically, but also verbally. So the whole thing can be inspected in a new way if there's not identification with it. It makes it very hard. If that thought has not become transparent yet, that thought, this is my anger, this is my fate, my destiny, my poor luck, my suffering, it makes it very hard to watch. But if these words of victimization come into view, then the question can arise easily, why continue with it? Why continue to be victimized or think that one is victimized and hold on to that thought? Why continue with that thought? One can ask that very innocently. Maybe it'll continue, maybe not. Maybe one will find that it's not that easy just getting rid of it because one holds on to it. This is my life. This is what I think I am, a victim. I'm just taking that not to cover the whole of our psychological stuff. It's a very frequent one, a very strong one. Seeing oneself victimized, the self-pity, and of course expecting pity from others, or sympathy. And to ask in there, from the drift with that, to ask why? What's going on? Let's watch this. Does this have to continue? May reveal amazing initial responses of, I don't want to be looked at. It's all right this way. This holding on to our imagery about ourselves just because it's such a strong habit. And the strong habit seems to give security. Seems to. Because actually we're never secure. We're always drifting from one contingency to another. Emergency. So, why sit? No answer, but sitting and watching, attending, discovering. It is sufficient in itself. It needs no rationalization. One will find that. All of a sudden, all this wondering about why do I do it drops off, because now there is a real engagement. What's happening? What is the practice here? This, just this. Ka. And listening and talking and allowing transparency, discovering the attachments and identifications with me, which I don't know what it is other than thought. To some people it seems very difficult to have no practice, no concentration on something, and just being there with what seems to be the chaos. To other people who've never had a practice, it doesn't seem so impossible, because that's what one has lived with all the time. And wonders whether there can be some quiet time in the midst of it. The breathing is always there, right here, isn't it? It's so palpable, so amazing. It's not, I remember having to do visualization practice of the breath from the nostrils through, well, wherever all these words are, through the lungs and then into the diaphragm. And we're told that if we visualize that, it would be much easier to stay concentrated on the breathing. That was after having practiced counting it, being allowed to drop that, because we were successful at it maybe 50% of the time. That was sufficient. And then just visualize the breath, and of course one can become very good at this because we do visualize the body. It's a vital function, neurologically, a vital function to have a body image. Without that, with the dysfunctions, can't get out of bed. But, see, we already know that the breath comes through the nose and that it fills the lungs and that there's some breathing muscle in the diaphragm, which is the diaphragm. We know that already, so we visualize the breathing according to what we know. And it's not wrong because all of these parts are involved. But if one can drop for a moment the conviction that we know what breathing is, open it up. Maybe I don't know about it. It doesn't have to be counter-dogmatic, throwing everything else out. Leave it gentle, Maybe I don't know what it is, and therefore listen and experience freshly this amazing affair of breathing. Letting it reveal itself. In a new way, not conceptualized. And finding to one's surprise it is not what one has visualized and believed. It is a total affair involving the entire organism. Will one now look for an amazing affair in one's breathing? And to watch these tricks and traps of thought. Maybe it's not an amazing affair. Maybe one finds it to be the most natural thing in the world to listen to breathing without visualization, without counting. Just to what's there. Short at times, deep at other times, and yet at other times, hardly breathing at all. There's no practice there, there's no force there, no prescribed rhythm in watching how it functions. Allowing the breath to do its thing, it need not be concentrated upon because it's there, it's here every moment. Without the attempt and effort to concentrate on it as my practice that I have to do, there can be the cawing and not as an interference. Cawing and breathing happen together and not separate. And so is the heartbeat and the sweating and the winding and the peopling all around. Not separate. We will end here for today.